Welcome everyone on the internet to this weekly also IT news. So much breaking stuff, literally, usually security nightmares, other bugs, bits and pieces, the usual stuff. Let's see how our amazing live stream over Wi-Fi, because breaking and failing Wi-Fi certainly survives today. With that being said, one last look. Hey, 0 frames so far. Let's see, amazing stuff. So as usual, even if when there are a couple of German news, I of course translate, because this is here live from the IFA there in Berlin, the HEVC high efficiency video codec successor VVC/H.266. Of course, previously we had H.264, 265, now 266. Same video quality with half the size. Certainly sounds amazing, although it's obviously highly patented as usual. This good German stuff here from Fraunhofer Institute and whatever, Fraunhofer HHI and whatever, German public TV station goodness there on the booth there of the German TV platform, whatever there. And yeah, as usual stuff, development. But again, totally not a fan of this, so not a paid advertisement. Totally not a fan of software patents and this kind of proprietary stuff. Mostly, of course, among other things, for the patent situation. And we had this, even MP3 was partially co-invented or mostly or whatever in Germany. And even as German, I never liked the patent situation. Free, open software and other, even with commercials. So fun fact, we a couple of times considered filing a patent, but we never have done. Not only the paperwork and time and money, but also the benefits next to zero. Totally not a fan of this bullshit. And yeah, then I rather support other open, free, standard stuff like Google's, whatever the name is, or that. Anyway, just for completeness sake, the stuff. But there you see also adoption, yeah, questionable, right? At least in the open source world. And yeah, also the patent situation often really bizarre, that they already charge for hardware implementations and then they want to charge other software vendors again just for using the hardware bits and pieces in Android, or it's hilarious. Always a little bit fishy situation. In similar news, developer update USB IF implementers forum specification now available of USB 4. And you might or might not have heard this already. So one thing, Intel, of course, I probably mentioned this in some other IT news, that Intel donated this Thunderbolt specification. So this is like now everything in one mixed cable back there. Apparently, certainly it will be interesting challenges. In my opinion, USB 3 and C already a huge mess. You plug stuff in, doesn't barely work and stuff. So yeah, probably I don't expect this to become better than USB 4 with all the Thunderbolt stuff mixed in there. But key characteristics of USB 4 solution include 2-lane operation on existing USB Type-C cables and up to 40 gigabits per second operation over 40 gigabit per second certified cables, multiple data display protocols that efficiently share the maximum aggregate bandwidth, backward compatibility with USB 3, 2 and Thunderbolt 3. So yeah, this is also, if you've seen my low-level work, what we usually do here, or even if we have partial specification, I spent there 4 hours trying to get with the Silicon Motion Link 3D, getting hardware textures to work, and here, guess what fun this is. And then maybe you rather want to be prepared with a really good logic analyzer, and if you develop drivers. And then this is such a nightmare, right? When people always tell you, yeah, software sucks. In my opinion, it's a little bit too much here for this kind of features. USB 1, USB 2, USB 3, all the different bandwidth variations, alt mode, like this alt mode display, HDMI, display port, analog audio, and all the other fun stuff. And then the power delivery, so super complex standard, certainly 1,000 pages long, maybe another live stream we would just go over it. I recently refreshed my memory and scrolled over the XHCI extendable host controller interface of USB 3, and it is a nightmare. And then don't be surprised if stuff doesn't really work all that well. Welcome everyone in the audience, by the way. And yeah, also they continued, we had this in previous IT news when they did this strange renaming thing with Gen 2 and X2 and 4 and whatnot, and apparently they continue this. I've not even looked in the details, I saw this scrolling by. Forgot the details there, I read it somewhere, but somehow the naming continues to be getting even more crazy. But yeah, in other news we better continue before I get fed up here with USB-C stuff. In more amazing news, AMD Ryzen, you might have read or seen somewhere the controversy in regards to turbo boost frequencies, and this is that some other, probably mostly YouTubers, and there you see all the real research and journalist reporting stuff nowadays getting going on YouTube, and other people, including the German Der Bauer, but certainly other from Gamers Nexus and fun YouTube channels like this, they've done there quite some research. We're still waiting for the 3950X SKU there for Ryzen 16 core 32 threads, but other who are early adopters, they found that it's not turbo boosting as much and as much as advertised, although I certainly, other YouTubers make a super huge fuss about this. I personally don't consider this as much of a scandal. Certainly Intel CPUs always turbo boosted more or less or whatsoever, but yes, you could agree, like with Der Bauer and stuff, that if 90% or 80% of the CPUs do not, even if it's just, how much was it, 50 megahertz or something, or something of that sort, even if they are just very shy of this, he made the argument, it's not advertised boot clock. And yeah, you could agree with this. Also, if I finally get my 3950X SKU, if it eventually ships soon, in what month do we have? Soon, I guess, right, this month. If my 16 cores, 32 threads are just 50 megahertz shy of whatever the boost frequency of this is, then whatever, I run it most likely in tiny mini ITX compute nodes anyway, so YOLO. But he has a point, and it is also good, like we do here on this channel, calling companies out when they do not deliver as advertised or deliver other shady stuff. And apparently their calling was loud enough that AMD now apparently is pleased with the strong momentum here. I mean, last IT news, right? The stuff sells like hotcakes, right? But they promise here that the boost frequencies, depending on many variables, yeah, the usual business speak, right? Depending on many variables, and your mileage may vary, and yada yada, cooling and whatnot, yeah, we got it. But they now promise to deliver they are in the process of preparing a BIOS update for the motherboard partners, like the random stuff, and well, at least the old random stuff they have not fixed in 4 years now. They want to disable it in Linux and whatever. But apparently they want to ship something to the BIOS vendors, and as you probably know from the random stuff, and what was it? Was it something else? Mostly random, right? Anyway, it takes some months for the BIOS vendors, most likely. By the way, recurring call out, we initially announced PCI Gen 4 works on the CPU lanes, but AMD unfortunately has taken this away from us, right? And yeah, comments in the audience. 4 gigabyte, something 30 watt, doesn't really matter. Yeah, you mean SI unit, right? You mean 124 multiplied by 4 or something, or you mean, anyway, block size, yeah, but it doesn't really matter too much, although they are right in some way. And if AMD gives some extra performance, the question is, of course, can they deliver this extra 50 or so megahertz? Megahertz 50? What did I even say? Megahertz? Guess so. Anyway, Can they deliver this stable, or will it cause instabilities? Whatever. If I'm a little bit more annoyed that they didn't yet ship the 16 core 32 thread SKUs, but whatever. If I get then sometime soon higher binned silicon, then I'm also happy. In any case, I need this course for open source compilation, certainly. In similar news, speaking about open source compilation, there is here also some patch from AMD, and you have to wonder that in this day and age, this is AMD CPC optional register, AMD support for scheduling. And this is maybe what other people previously said, hey Rene, other people like Wendel or so from level 1 tech or so is calling Ryzen 2nd gen 3000, so confusing naming, whatever. Is it working amazing with Linux? Apparently Wendel said needs some time. I would personally, if I have the silicon scheduler, whatever, can also tune it, or YOLO, whatever. Certainly probably works well enough if I would have it anyway, but certainly, so they proposed here a patch, but you see, and I really wonder that the stuff is not better communicated in the Linux professional big IT AAA company, Fortune 500 company stuff, because they proposed here a patch, new AMD processors, family 17X, add support for a subset of optional CPPC registers based on ACPI version 6.1, here for scheduling and frequency handling and stuff. And so some other long-term Linux developer, Peter Cielstra, also rejected this outright. So in general, he thinks it's a huge mistake to expose all those to user space and so on. You see a lot of work is done also to improve scheduling for the core complexes and stuff. But then people do a lot of work. I really wonder a little bit why they do not communicate and draft those here up front, and instead of people doing the work and then later people come say, no, will not accept this, and don't think this is the right way. But yeah, only wanted to shout this out because he also says that was is here probably basically a big fat not acknowledged for this approach to CPU frequency, a little bit, so much time wasted as usual, but they are looking to moving all of this to schedule, so scheduler have only one single governor. Of course, governor, we have performance, economy on and whatnot, and so they apparently maybe consider factoring all this into one scheduler and then having some user space schedule stuff for implementing the performance parity and whatnot scheduling eventually. So yeah, eventually sometime between now and forever, and maybe or maybe not, but whatever. So yeah, huge, even 28 years later, they are still reworking the scheduler because growing core and thread count and fun stuff like this. Speaking about fun stuff like this, more amazing Linux stuff here, because certainly open source and whatnot. And what this is, I only wanted to shout this out. This also irritates me a little bit with our recurring theme of considering implementing a microkernel here. And today I put it away, but also reverse engineering more video stuff and maybe implementing, this is why I'm consider implementing an alternative graphics stack just for the fun of it. But I'm slightly also, we have already IDE and SCSI, the old-fashioned interfaces for block devices. Then you can emulate them in QEMU like emulated IDE and SCSI. That was of course what we have done historically, like decades ago, also for VMware, when all this VMware patented goodness virtualization stuff was new and hot and stuff. And then we have also, of course, the initial file sharing was done with CIFS, SMB, FS's, Microsoft inherited Windows file sharing stuff, of course not, well, huge software and not the most high performance. Then we had, with a lot of gaps, a lot of steps skipped there, but we also had this Plan 9 from Plan 9 operating research fame, And what this was used for, besides the Plan 9 operating system stuff, we have this protocol in the Linux kernel and QEMU Xen and stuff that you can share files, simple and relatively high performance, without all the overhead of this network file system stuff of CIFS or SMB. And now, of course, in my opinion, it's getting a little bit out of hand, right? So on top of all of those stuff, and of course virt.io for virtualized I/O block interfaces, with all of those in between, and now the latest and greatest invention of people at Red Hat there is virtio-fs as another higher performance alternative. In my opinion, all the alternatives, choice is good, alternatives are good, but eventually, is it too much? Should we concentrate on 10 and not 100 solutions? So the latest stuff, not using Plan 9 because it was not high performance enough. And the latest is sharing this host and guest file sharing stuff, memory mapped in over virtio, allegedly for much higher performance. But yeah, I'm also wondering a little bit, when is complexity too much? But anyway, so what is it doing? Implements a driver for the para-virtualized virtio-fs device. Guest host file system sharing. It allows guests to mount directories that has been exposed by the host or on the host. Guests often require access to files residing on the host and remote systems. And users can include making files, use cases, my reading abilities today, to a new guest during installation, blah, 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 yada, yada, too long. And again, anyway, so this is like previously P9 protocol, just now high performance. And maybe I test this another day. I really wonder if this is already scheduled. So this is mapping fuse, so internal, since the virtio device uses a fuse protocol, of course, and then you wonder, monolithic kernel, and then this complexity, here's something, there's something, virtio block, IDE SCSI, P9, virtio, fuse. It's like, my God, where should this end? Can't make this up. But anyway, so this is, and yeah, also fuse, of course, all the people, microkernel, not high performance enough for multi-server file system. Yeah, nowadays we have multi-server file system over virtualized guests in containers over virtio for, yeah, you name it. So mapping dev fuse to virt queues registers, solving differences in semantics between dev fuse and virt queues, of course, being the virtualized I/O, virtualized queues, memory mapped I/O queues for high performance, whatever that might be, block, graphics, serial data, P9, or latest and greatest fuse, and making it possible to prioritize certain requests over others. Virt queues have queue semantics, and it's possible to change the order of requests and have been queued. This is especially important for virt queues becoming full, since it's possible to add high priority requests in order to address different, yada, yada, yada. Fun fact, if you are using any of those, I was actually considering to make a test on our servers. Certainly we use long fan of QEMU KVM. Actually never been a fan of Xen for all the added layers of other operating systems in the mix there. So we are mostly rocking KVM. I was actually wondering if I make a test for not exposing blocks, like old-fashioned block file systems, to the guests, but only tunneling like P9 or maybe now this, for having better administrative access, for not having to deal with block devices. Then you could have the files on /virtual machine /root file system, or exposed like web server and other cloud stuff, and not having this going through a block layer for maybe potential better administrative access and visibility, and just moving files around on the administrative hypervisor level. But if you have any experience and suggestions about this, maybe leave it in the comments below. Let's see, what do we have there? Picking up plan corpse. Yeah, although P9 was probably not the worst anyway. Use fuse we might as well use fuse to virt every fs RIP plan 9, they were right in the long run. Yeah, although they now say P9 protocol was not high performance enough. But again, my recurring theme here, maybe better stability and security over performance, especially as seen on my more random live stream with the Intel Pulse board just an hour ago. If you have really crappy drivers, then a monolithic kernel doesn't help you much if your graphic stuff and subsystem is, the algorithms and stuff is so bad anyway. But maybe more to this in another live stream sometime soon. In more amazing news, this is why my fan is so high, because this bloody video plays. Thank you very much, modern internet. I wonder that this latest Firefox still autoplays videos. Anyway, in similar news, Knoppix 8.6 first wide public release to abandon systemd. Did not everyone tell me systemd is amazing stuff, and I'm the last one who is not using systemd. But yeah, so you see even those people of really one of the earliest live distributions maybe of good old Debian fame, the popular Debian-derived Linux distribution Knoppix now maybe also abandoning systemd. I find this really sad, and I make a dedicated live stream sometime soon, between now and forever, maybe tomorrow, about the Linux situation. As always, leave your feedback of anything that you think is nice, worth pointing out and discussing. But yeah, notably for bringing first public release version of the distribution to abandon systemd, an init system built by Red Hat of Leonard Pöttering fame there, the guy who makes all the controversy software that people either love or hate, usually hate for the most part anyway, especially not working Pulse Audio. This reminds me, does audio work today, because usually Pulse Audio fails here. And yeah, rip in peace. Systemd, in my opinion, over complex, but you know the drill here, not the latest fan and of this stuff. And while adoption of systemd was subject of considerable controversy and criticism, it is a mainstream default. Well, not at us, but not that we are mainstream with our unsuccessful Manwin distributions that we may or may not upgrade to a microkernel sometime soon, between now and forever. In similar amazing news, Google is tightening its grip on your website. Probably super important news for all of you in web and cloud stuff and whatnot. Actually, by the way, I probably should check what I'm covering with the video overlay there. Actually, too bad. And yeah, so I called this out in another live stream some time ago in regards to AMP. Not a great fan, of course. AMP was some kind of mobile, whatever, what was it? AMP and one advanced mobile page, whatever. Abbreviations, you name it. And so, of course, just as predicted, not only I'm not using this, I'm not a fan of this, by all means try to give those big companies less data, not more, my opinion anyway, because, I mean, why do they do this? They only do this because they want to collect as much statistics and fun stuff that they can get from you. The more, the better for them. And so they now want to bring this to desktop to infiltrate every corner of the internet. They write here, totally not a fan of this, and this needs to stop. And I mean, seriously, what is wrong with just hosting the stuff yourself? And Google is so evil, in my opinion, from the good old mantra of be good, or what. The mantra is so long in the past, I even forgot. Don't be evil, I don't know, whatever the crappy slogan was there. And so it's already 5 years ago, so much to how time flies by here. 5 years since Google debuted the splashy new product called Accelerated. There we have it, Accelerated. So much to my advanced guess. Accelerated mobile pages, of course it's Accelerated. That promise to speed up load times on websites accessed by phone. And fast forward to today, AMP has grown into something much more ambitious. Earlier this month, Google rolled out a new feature that allows AMP to use server-side rendering, boosting performance for sites. Also, I mean, server, you see a recurring theme here. Web stuff, I called this out previously already, becoming so slow that you even need server-side rendering for this complicated web stuff, for even Core i7 of ThinkPad goodness here to keep up with this. Core i7 load of website rendering, and it's hilarious in my opinion. If you have seen the Intel Atom on the previous live stream on my More Live channel, struggling with the interwebs here just after a decade, yes, it was low performance, but it was the highest performance SKU here, 2 GHz of Intel Z series Atom fame. But yeah, I don't understand why companies, even big publishing houses, they are so frightened with Google to get, I mean, on one thing in the EU, they sue Google and lobby for this bloody, I don't even know what, Article 13, 17 and whatnot, link tags there. And on the other side, they use all of their dog food anyway. I don't get this. And what is so complicated to host a website? And if you wanted, I give you the biggest pro tip here now live on this channel. If you want to an isolated mobile page, just don't clutter it with frameworks, like 20 frameworks and megabytes of CSS and custom fonts and HTML, whatever, and advertisements and tracking and 20 tracking stuff and tracking pixels. And yeah, with this, it's so simple. Just get all the stuff out of your mobile page and it's snappy, like even on a Z series Atom from yesterday. But anyway, my two cents here, they are coming there for your desktop also. Totally not amused, not good stuff. And also, I think Google wants to, so here it's probably written somewhere, and this is really frightening, and why you probably should stop using Google and Chrome and use some free stuff, like really free stuff, like open stuff, and not like free as in Google's free beer, because they want to prioritize here apparently websites from this. So somewhere it was written here, Google itself even hosts approved AMP pages for publishers accepted into Google News. Well, Google News, like Google reducted and censored and promoted. It's hilarious what time we live in. I can't make this shit up anyway. And then these sites are prioritized, right? So only those sites, AMP adoption is also the only way to gain access to Google's discovery feed. And we are really getting into really dangerous use our stuff for maximum tracking and visibility, and otherwise you are just not as visible on the internet, right? I mean, it's hilarious. You can't make this up. But yeah, also we get some comments in the audience. I probably should try to adjust it somehow. All right, this was this other click here of web usability 2019 pop-up chat. Where is it now? Oh, there it is now. Of course, it's there now. To better read this here, and let's see what you guys are writing. Of course, it's zooming, scaling. Probably one day I need to write a web browser or just fork one. Anyway, just block Flash, and yeah, also probably I read some interesting comments, but this usual, if I summarize every tweet and stuff I read, then this really gets out of hand here, the length of the live stream, because some people wrote in my Twitter filter bubble there that JavaScript is the new Flash, someone postulated there. And this is an interesting thought, right? Previously all the slow crappy stuff was Flash, and now we replaced Flash, and we thought now we are done with it. But no, nowadays all the websites, why is all the crap so slow? On top, all the JavaScript doing all the fancy Bitcoin mining and whatever they are doing there, animation and whatnot. So nowadays Java is the new Flash, unfortunately, and also contributing majorly to the slowdown of your favorite websites and dynamic reactive stuff and whatnot. And yeah, comments in the audience, Mythidays could just block Flash and single source of issues. Yeah, now you have videos, JavaScript, and you can't even block it. If you block JavaScript, you can't even book a flight, reserve a hotel, and all the fun stuff. Now it blocks ads, pages, JS sources, and yeah, tech. Yeah, it's anyway. This needs to stop, and maybe we make a dedicated live stream of just JavaScript and web stuff. And anyway, maybe anyway, yeah. So in other amazing news, Twitter stuff. Some Jack was compromised, and yeah, 2019, even the Twitter security what is it? Security CSO CTO, CSO, I don't know, something of that sort. And allegedly only via the phone number, but I think this also spread some articles over the internet that, especially on German ones, that with SIM cloning and like phone number hijacking, especially with all the super insecure, this was before my live stream days, like years ago already, with the super insecure S7 protocol for all the mobile routing and fun stuff. So someone in Russia or China or wherever, India, USA, Germany can just hijack your phone number, having the right S7 routing protocol access stuff. Although they know like this S7 or what it was protocol, super insecure, no access control lists whatsoever. And so basically now, apparently they, years ago, added some firewalls like 2015 when your mobile routing protocol is so insecure that you need firewall for your S7 access. Is like, yeah, can't make this stuff up. You name it. Which camera would this have been? Also, yeah, in similar news, certainly insecurity doesn't stop there. 2019, your car is so connected to the cloud that you can't access it anymore. Also, can this JavaScript stuff go away there? Probably also slightly hidden behind the window. Yeah, Tesla malfunction locks out owners who depend on app for entry, forces them to scramble for keys. Yeah, you better get your, this is the modern people, right? Not having your key with you as a fallback. Usually, I'm not even sure. At some fun keys, it's sometimes some emergency key, like it was like on the underside of the door, or other fun stuff like fender, or in via the trunk or something of that sort. If you have a fully electronic key, I personally probably our Mini does have only normal remote, which I really don't like too much. But this I also intentionally, I'm totally not a fan of this, right? Especially as the RF remote, what is it called? Remote range extending attack there, where you have one person in the supermarket just RF extending all the stuff to someone else in the parking lot and just unlocking the car with just remote tunneling there, your key data. Totally, I also don't understand why people desperately need all this modern crap that you don't really need for anything at all, in my opinion. Can just open the door with, well, of course a key can also be super easily broken, so on this sort maybe, yeah, well, I personally have this normal remote stuff, not this, like, not like keyless, but still you need to press a button. I also always wonder those people like just walking away from the car and hope that it locks, like, yeah, somehow feels strange to me. But on the other hand, maybe a remote, like not keyless, but normal remote key, at least somewhat easier, somewhat harder to crack, because an old-fashioned lock, obviously you can just lock pick anywhere, right? With a metal clip, paper clip, hair, something, whatever that is called in English, something. So yeah, from this, just pressing a little bit there in the lock and it's open. So yeah, maybe electric encrypted lock a little bit safer than totally old-fashioned mechanical garbage. But yes, nothing is amazing. And there you see if people also, yeah, so this is twofold, right? So first of all, the cloud is down, you can't switch on your light, you can't start your car. It's like brave new times, right? And certainly calls here for the face palm of that. And why I really wonder that people think this is a good idea. I really somehow, well, I'm a total tech person, right? But even for me, I need tech on the server, on the laptop, but I don't need tech for each door lock and smoke detector. And somewhere it's also a limit of over cloudification of, yeah, and then you see what happens if stuff goes wrong. In similar news, we have here over 47,000 Supermicro servers. This is recurring news, of course, a little bit before our YouTube live stream time, but BMC is a management controller there, Broadcom, also of that sort, you name it. And the usual recurring stuff. Is it a good idea to connect everything to the internet? And then you have security vulnerabilities because everything is full with security vulnerabilities. And then you have 47,000 Supermicro. Of course, exactly what we just took into operation for test purposes there in the office. The Supermicro server of old-fashioned Xeon stockpile crap I had there from the failed Apple Mac Pro update. So exactly this kind of stuff where theoretically we could also install this open BMC on there if we wanted for some testing fun. But yeah, if you have one of those, you probably want to disconnect them from the internet, put some firewall rules in place here and maybe update this or flash some open source version. And oops, that was focused on the run. When you want to scroll, you switch all the stuff. And yeah, you probably know what this is, don't need this explanation. And yeah, there's also fun recurring theme that fun people, script kiddies and criminal people and stuff, they systematically scan the internet, right, and try to find open ports. So if you wonder how they find this, obviously in today's time, totally no problem to scan the internet in a couple of days with some cloud instances or using hundreds of routers there of your friends and family. So if you wondered how do they find this, just scan the whole internet and, well, at least IPv4, IPv6, obviously you can't scan as quickly as that, but you probably got the idea. Recurring theme, everything is insecure, no surprise. Speaking about insecure, we had this news, I called this out personally here some weeks ago, similar why I don't like wireless cars. Not the greatest fan of, actually I wonder slightly why is this, okay, it doesn't really matter too much. Somehow my display is larger than I realized it is. Fun stuff. In any case, so something was off here with I borked something with the X-Render config. Anyway, I called this out, Logitech, why I am also not a fan of this wireless stuff, because I am pretty well aware as a computer scientist, half security researcher or whatever, low-level tinkerer, everything is insecure, especially if you have not programmed it yourself, full of buffer overruns, custom security algorithms that are not secure. And then they fixed this. We had this news here already a couple of weeks ago, and then they patched this. And yeah, guess what? The patch is already insecure and broken because obviously, right? Never trust this kind of consumer grade hardware stuff. I would never get into this. And yeah, you can already trick this, not a surprise there, totally not a fan of this. I like zero use, well, I have maybe, how many wireless keyboards do I have? Maybe I have two, actually, okay, I have three. Once I was on travel and I brought for £19.99 in London some cheap crap, Costco kind of, Costco whatever, cheap crap there, no name crap, that was also wireless, but only because I needed a keyboard there on the go. But not counting this piece of garbage, I have two others that I rarely use just for PS3 connecting fun stuff. But yeah, I like for my serious work, like 99.99% use wired keyboards, because why not? Again, recurring theme, I don't understand why people need keyless car entry, cloud connected light switches, cars and light bulbs, and I also don't understand why people need wireless keyboards and mice. And then each time I want to pair it, I lose 5 minutes because it doesn't pair to, even on a Mac. And then you dual boot, right? You dual boot one old version of macOS with a new one, and then it doesn't want to pair, and then you need to forget this device even on macOS. And yeah, 5 minutes gone that I could already solve whatever I wanted to do anyway. So yeah, with the key they can and decrypt it in real time, and yeah, the usual stuff. We had this already, and you got the idea. And wired keyboard, yeah, Christian, welcome, problem solved, yeah, exactly, welcome, my opinion. What is this here? Why is here not the news? MSN, where is here joy of being late? And where's the news? What the heck? Where's my news gone? Can't make this up. Why is here only garbage? It's hilarious. This must have been some. The joy of being take Max's up here drive being New York Times. Was it this? Not sure. Anyway, maybe it's this, maybe not. Something of that sort. I wanted to call this out. I've not actually, have to admit, I've not even read this article. Some articles I only scroll over or I collect them for the weekly IT news call out here because I think it's interesting. And if the articles of August 28th could be the best gadget that I brought this year, costs less than this week's worth of groceries. Let's see, after my smartphone, it's most frequently used. Can you guess what its mystery Gizmo Kindle ebook reader from 2015? And yeah, what I found, this probably is the article that I meant to quote there, whatever was wrong with it, URL. But I wanted to call this out. I found this particular matching with my YouTube channel when we have fun time with old stuff like the SJ Octane, the P3, although admittedly some of this stuff I spent quite a good money on, especially on the Tool P3 that certainly wanted for just this fun there on the Linux side. But most of the other stuff, this P3, fun fact, P3 most likely probably the most expensive stuff I probably eBayed in a decade or something. Anyway, even the OCO01, the transmitter Efficient, all of them I've got already a decade ago, long before the YouTube stuff, only because I wanted to collect like transmitter Efficient, OCO, the world's smallest PC stuff. And of course, back in the day when the OCO01 was new, 2005 or so, I was a student, didn't have money left, certainly didn't spend 2,000 money on an underperforming gadget like that. And this kind of stuff, similar to here, the joy of being late tech adapter. And even before that, when I was a student and I did all the heavy duty low-level Linux stuff from the Linux kernel to Xorg to Rock Linux distribution, I said this before, I usually didn't buy the most high performance NVIDIA, certainly not open source drivers. But I said before, I brought high quality components like Matrox G450 or something, dual head DVI, but always like 6 months late when the price was already down, right? So Matrox, of course, high quality silicon, open source drivers and stuff. And then unfortunately targeting medicine and digital signage on airports and stuff like that, the price didn't come down too much, unfortunately, but at least it wasn't the mainstream hype, right? People didn't buy a Matrox card for playing Quake, but being late to take there, saving a little bit, then you can afford it, and then just keep using it, right? Even most of the stuff you could really use for a decade, and that is a little bit my grief with all the regular mainstream YouTube channels that only unbox you the latest and greatest stuff. And in my opinion, still rocking the old iPhone, because why not Samsung here, although this is relatively new, but even there getting here discounted stuff, because why not? And yeah, just keep using it, have fun with a Raspberry Pi for your vintage stuff, or an old PC there from your parents' basement for Monkey Islands or whatever fun stuff you want to play, or a Mega 500 that your family might still have in a garage, something of that sort. In my opinion, and when you take a look in many of the modern games like Fruit Ninja stuff or whatever the bloody crap is even called, or Mario Run, where you can only jump, I mean totally garbage games in my opinion, not worth a single cent. I rather play a good run of Monkey Islands, Lotus, Turbo Challenge, or whatever. Even what might other cool games be? Well, certainly on the P3 you can play a lot of games, but basically all of those games, including Lotus Turbo, Lotus Esprit, Turbo Challenge, something there of Amiga and PC fame, even that game, although you can only drive left and right and accelerate, it's still 3 controls more than the Mario Run crap has there. So yeah, even certainly a good old-fashioned round of Tetris on a Game Boy is more entertaining than Mario Run of just jumping up. It's hilarious in both times we live. And that being said, certainly a lot of stuff is more fun there on the vintage side with modern Fruit Ninja crap games, in my opinion, probably. Anyway, and in similar Apple news, I wanted to share this for the UI and usability. I have my good grief here with usability and probably will make some more dedicated videos about this fun. And because not everything is amazing, right? The big companies, Google, Android, they have so many engineers and develop stuff, and then but I need to make a dedicated video about this. Why do I point this out? Because there's so much to improve, and I really wonder what those companies are doing. So for example, this menu navigation here is totally stupid on the iPhone, which I don't have a. I think this came, so previously you tapped here and you tapped there and you have been on the dashboard, and now it's like the last video. Why does it, why is it now when you go here to the dashboard like not showing the summary? And this is also totally hilarious menu. I mean, what were they thinking with this? You tap this down to consume the same space, like go to the analytics where I want to go already, and like why is it not directly there already? And it's like, why does it need to be a hidden animation? And it's like, yeah, and it's, I don't know why they always need to decrease the usability and make changes just to make changes, and then stuff is less amazing, but certainly something for another video. Backup 77K. When that craps out, what are you talking about? Seeing new processor power increase, at least for my needs, facepan per core. Yeah, and so less is more. So this is this usability stuff where those folks fight with this hamburger menu, and less is more. Like previously, I think the saying was like Apple didn't like this. By the way, hamburger menu exactly. By the way, I hope I'm back showing that here with my not dual screen. Hamburger menu, of course, being here exactly where I tapped there, this hamburger menu stuff that Apple, I think, was not eager to adopt, or was an Android thing. And now they use or abuse the ellipsis. And now basically you have this ... ellipsis thing all over the iOS UI. And yeah, also wonder a little bit modern UI stuff. Yeah, but so basically you have this ellipsis thing everywhere, and the problem is, of course, you don't know what is going there. I mean, it's basically a hamburger thing, just ellipsis, where it's like overview, and every like non-primary stuff you reach with this ellipsis or something. So basically you need to randomly try and rediscover and like learn, and because you can't just like move over there or something, you need to explicitly tap everything and like discover and learn and memorize all these menus. And yeah, somehow, yeah, modern UI design, or yeah, not even aligned here apparently. Do they even, not sure if they complain about this alignment, but looks a little bit unaligned here to me. Now switch from the ellipsis button indicating tapping. It will provide information, setting, acting, context menu, cross. The jump, speaking of the soon to be or whatever. While having so many ellipsis buttons of two different types seems excessive, at least Apple uses them consistently here. Clicking, speaking of betas or whatever. Anyway, yeah, there you find even a modern UI. Well, certainly, in my opinion, from what I heard from friends and family UI designers, there was quite some criticism going from this goikomorphism photorealistic look to this flat stuff, and many people called out this flat stuff for not being as user-friendly and visibly like noticing quickly what of all this textual flat stuff you can actually click and select, and what is UI element and what not. And yeah, anyway, probably want to read this in more detail if you're interested in this fun stuff. Speaking about, this is German, sorry, but anyway, what's this watch series? Would this be English if we just remove this here? Could have actually, heavy, amazing URL guessing for 200 here live on YouTube. Screen replacement program for aluminium, series Apple Watch, series 2 and 3, because you can never have too many Apple extended warranty replacement repair programs. And yeah, now it's Apple Watch, because certainly everything at Apple is peak bugs and breaking and getting defect. And Apple has determined that under very rare circumstance. Obviously everything is always very limited, few number of handful of users. Yes, for the handful of few users, a rare number of circumstances, they have an extended warranty program because only 5 people complained, right? But it may crack, and yeah, certainly fun fact, I don't have an Apple Watch, never brought one, never found the appeal of, don't need more vibrating stuff that reminds me to stand up and go somewhere, drink a coffee, and also my phone is already vibrating often enough and don't need more devices that vibrate. Here is synchronized in sync for all the notification stuff. Also, your watch needs to be broken enough, so if it's only a little broken, then it's not legible. And so only if the crack begins on one side and then may continue around the screen, as shown in this image below. So if you have only a partially broken screen apparently on one side or so, then you're out of luck. It must continue around two edges or something of that sort, otherwise it's not broken enough. So yeah, whatever, can't make this up. But yeah, are you a fan of smartwatches? I will probably make a video about this because so many video ideas and stuff to share. But yeah, even the Apple Watch is serial defect, manufacturer broken, because Apple quality, the very highest, finest standards, you name it. In similar news, exploit sellers say there are more iPhone hacks on the market than they have ever seen. And so much to the myth that iOS and stuff is super secure and the securest and the least bugs. And yeah, not only do I call out peak bugs, even people there on the market call out, exploit sellers call out peak bugs, so many that the market is flooded apparently. And so much to the myth that using iOS is the safest platform. Maybe not. Not only are there many devices and they are all the same, more up to date on one single version, so the largest monocultural attack surface ever. And at least on Android you have varying degree on, yeah, also not amazing, but we probably recurring theme. Want a microkernel and more secure software. But yeah, there. Of course, this is just some input, but it sounds plausible also. I mean, in previous IT news of the other day, Apple even unpatched their patch, so and jailbreak for latest iOS can't make this up, right? I mean, so yeah, well-known broker of exploits say that the price of iPhone exploits are not the most expensive on the market anymore. Announced new prices for Android 0 days, which are bugs, and yeah, we know this. They will pay 2.5 million to security researchers who provide exploits that allow, and yeah, so much is it's crazy, right? 2019, and people pay 2.5 million for security vulnerabilities. It's like, but actually I think we have a graphic for this, right? Which, by the way, I can't scroll, probably need to. Yeah, 2019 fun stuff here. It is said we should, in my opinion, being 20 years now, in more or less 20 years, and kind of in this industry, counting my self-taught time before university, when I was in school, 20 years, I have to agree, our software architecture sucks majorly. We need to majorly revamp how we write software. This cannot continue, and this will continue, right? Because we do not have a culture of calling this out. This is why, with seeing all those other YouTubers, I thought I need to speak up here and say this cannot be. We need like Rust, although I'm not the greatest fan of Rust, more memory safe languages, not the greatest fan for the cargo ecosystem, but even there not everything can be amazing. And for the C and C++ side, we need to, I said this earlier, we need to stop using the string family of functions. Everything is a buffer over underrun, and don't use statically allocated C arrays ever, not on the, especially not on the stack, and certainly like never. And in my opinion, we certainly need to revamp completely, not only for the monolithic Linux kernel or other monolithic GNU kernels there on Apple's Mac and iOS, but this needs to stop. If we build houses like this, it would be totally falling apart infrastructure collapse. What we are building here and clobbering together everything we find left and right, it's hilarious. This needs to stop, I would say, but as usual, leave me in the comments below what you think, in my opinion anyway, because this will only get worse. As you see right now, it's getting worse. And yeah, also, we had, I think in previous news, I called it out, you see so many news and bugs and pieces. I think I mentioned that we had this iOS web malware network, their infrastructure there, where all the iOS devices got some browse by infection of malware the other week, as far as I remember anyway. So yeah, so much to that, certainly speaks to that regard. Speaking of that, by the way, maybe this is why do I have this? Maybe this first eBay and German news, you don't need to read it. So at least in Germany or other states of Europe, maybe worldwide, eBay is now switching away from PayPal to this IO, whatever that was, something nobody knows about, their payment partner, manage payments. What I'm surprised is that they, there it's Adin or so, Adin, can't make this names up, my recurring theme here, names that people can't pronounce or remember. And what I'm actually surprised, so it looks like they, first of all, PayPal still makes billions, but they have already terminated many jobs in Europe. So they closed huge departments there, and allegedly to this article, you will not see this Adyen payment partner there. So you will directly enter your, apparently at least here in Germany, enter your credit details like credit card and stuff in eBay. So this also probably means eBay has your credit card details, and also this works with Apple Watch and Google Pay or something. Apple Pay and Google Pay. So yeah, so you have that for when you were wondering that, or did I not move this? I thought I moved this over anyway. So if you're wondering what's up with this PayPal stuff, yeah, it's on the way out there at least. So huge payment changes coming, but not a great fan of. It's also strange times, right? 2019, you have eBay. You would think a huge company like eBay could handle this themselves, but no, they have a payment partner for this for whatever reasons. You would think they are large enough for that. And then you have Adyen, and then it's not only going over Adyen, or whatever, but also, so they get some 0.1% or whatever. Then, and because also, if all the modern people of the new and trendy and hip people of nowadays, they use Apple Pay and Google Pay, then Apple Pay and Google Pay get some percentage, and Adyen gets some percentage, like 0.1% there and 0.2% there. It's hilarious. When, I don't know, in good old-fashioned times, eBay could have handled this themselves from credit cards and wire transfers, but yeah, brave new time. And then if you wonder, where do your credit card details get lost into the cloud and people steal it? Yeah, from laying on Adyen servers and on transactions going to Google and Apple left and right. So yeah, not really sure if that is the most amazing idea. And yeah, we have comments in the audience. Need a good frame, even know what people are, what is even round nose. Just bumbling around with their nose in the phone, that crack going, which I don't need. Yeah, exactly. Also, security has been solved. I think that can be helped. The security has been solved just by, which is hard to argue against in the comments, that causes the laziness of rushing solutions, attack vectors, and who use, you can see that from the amount of people who use OpenBSD. Secure but inconvenient. Yes, so OpenBSD is also totally old basic drivers that do the basic stuff, but do the basic stuff readable and right. A little bit the same for the OpenBSD, I would say. Yeah, the less drivers and the less features you have and the less code you have to review. Of course, the Linux kernel and distribution slapping everything together and hoping something of this sticks to the wall and works or something. But yeah, Anyway, always leave me in the comments below, always curious, and sometimes, often, or not only sometimes, often I even learn something, even new commands like less G for all the fun stuff on how to install something on Ubuntu and fun stuff. Anyway, leave me in the comments below what you think to any of those topics, security or operating system, smartwatches, do you need them, and payment processing. Do you find this amazing here nowadays? 2019, your payment goes around the world, goes on all cloud servers, Google, Apple, Adyen, eBay, you name it. It's like, yeah, I would actually kind of prefer just to have one, but whatever. But I mean, anyway, I also don't need an Apple Watch to pay. I don't get it. I really not. And also like innovation, right? I mean, basically this is the Apple Watch is just, I mean, first of all, a small phone on your wrist, right? And then also just a credit card, right? It's just NFC. Basically, a Nexus 5 could have done this, or Palm Pre, or I don't know what. It's just the credit card number authentication stuff, right? So it's not like I don't. It's like probably 20 patents that all are like trivial stuff that people make up on the lunch break, right? I don't. Anyway, in similar news, although it's Friday for Future, don't want to bore you with our degrading planet here of warming oceans and air and hurricanes and stuff. Today, shout out for a study shows some exoplanets may have greater variety of life than exists on Earth. It sounds amazing. Of course, problem, all the exoplanets are a little bit far away, some light years left and right. So you all better stop poking around in C code and invent better rockets, because if we continue destroying our planet in the next 100 years or so, we certainly need some spaceships to go elsewhere, and then preferable spaceships that like enterprise grade spaceships that bring us to some nice exoplanet, because peak bugs and global warming, and the new study indicates that some exoplanets may have also, of course we can't even see them, right? So all of those studies, as far as I've seen, usually only transitioning of lightning and just like random guessing and calculations. So yeah, nothing is like proven. This is just like speculation from some glimpse of some light flashing. So yeah, unless if you have no more details, let me know. But may have better conditions for life to thrive than Earth itself has. That sounds amazing. Certainly we need more of this, especially as many people are burning oil here. Also, it shows us that conditions on some exoplanets may be favorable. Oceans circulating patterns could be better suited to support life than the more abundant, more active that lives on Earth. And yeah, amazing stuff. Hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed something, at least some amazing outlook here. And what is right software without knowledge code actually does, and C string can be dangerous, but the problem is with developers, not the languages. Insecure code. So to that sort, I recently saw we have varying at Exacode. We have, so not only we do this unsuccessful woman distribution, that is T2 with 3,000, 4,000 packages and all the architectures, fun stuff, embedded project virtualization. Fun fact, we have not only done embedded project virtualization and fun stuff in between. We also do code and security review and have our own exact scanner OCR kit. So we have, I've personally seen like most open source stuff, KDE GNOME packaged this and used this sometimes and so on, poked around my nose in all kinds of X drivers and stuff. So C, C++, our own software, exact scan, the old fashioned classic Mac software uses also Objective-C, because that was what you used in 2005 to write something. So, and then back in the day I was a C++ fan from 1998, kind of STL fame. So our medium legacy code base like image processing is C++ with Objective-C, and C from the Linux kernel bootloaders. I have seen a lot of C and whatnot, although personally don't prefer it the most. And I have to say, so you can say, and probably not this in, and I recently made some esoteric changes for some really stupid trivial scanner, stupid stuff handling there with USB stuff. And after a couple of days, I found myself some really stupid random crash in this using old-fashioned string functions, C string functions, right, in the low-level network USB glue there of our legacy drivers of the 500 drivers, reverse engineered and exact scan. And even though I consider myself quite good with all this kind of esoteric, old-fashioned, modern kind of whatever, even I make mistakes, right? So even when you write, even if you are kind of good or quite good or not good or whatever, maybe given even the best of the best in the Linux kernel and Mac OS, they make this kind of buffer overflow, underrun, overrun, and all kind of even security handling in pre-auth, like login pre-auth handling, even in Dove code or other amazing software at Apple. People make mistakes, and then we probably need to software architecture so that this stuff you should do this. And even I find this really annoying to type, and I rather use C++ STL. Like if I want a quick and dirty parser for something, I rather parse something with C++ streams. Although yes, they are not amazing, but in my opinion, it is easier to write some stream in like a Größe and certainly much less error prone than C-based S scan F whatever handling, and certainly old-fashioned code is full with it, or other even worse like custom parsing, like reading some character one by one, and yeah, and then even in Dove code there was some null escape overrun handling whatsoever. So speaking from our own experience, I said this before already, so the new scanner drivers, and sorry to bore you with that, but that is what I have an example for. We have written a couple of years ago already, fun fact, already a decade ago, I think plus minus, yeah, a decade ago, we have written an alternative. So we have a legacy code stack, certainly super nice software architecture, legacy C++ code of kind of scanner driver stack, of course with very nice stacked image processing and all the fun stuff, Lua. And this turned out super amazing. It was faster, it was more stable, performance was okay, fast enough and not noticeable that it was, and we are not even using Lua JIT, right? So this was interpreted Lua, classic Lua without JIT on PowerPC and certainly x86 already back in the day, and this was okay. So up to this day we still maintain this. So we have 400, so we have 400 something C family scanner drivers reverse engineered, and over like 450 or something, or 470, and we have 30 scanners plus minus maybe 25, 30 drivers supported with our new from scratch Lua written. And this is more amazing. It is faster to edit, compile, test, and less buggy, and totally amazing. And of course we have written our whole UI in Lua for, I disclosed this already. So I'm not saying everything needs to be written in Lua, just as a data sample that, and for example, JavaScript I don't find as amazing. Why have we not used JavaScript? Because all the JavaScript engines usually, runtime implementations are usually much larger, and Lua's JavaScript has too much what. With what I mean, I called this out earlier already. This what destroy, was it this talk? What maybe this, like do I have, let's see, can we just this over 25 million settle property with code, money code is what, if time is money and you have a lot of money, just like code is, yeah. Let's see, can we not done this recently on the ThinkPad? Is this JavaScript? Not sure if this is JavaScript. Let's see, do we have audio? Maybe, maybe not. Oh, we have a couple of drop frames.
All right, good. You guys know what WAT means? WAT? Exactly. Let's talk about Ruby. In Ruby, if you reference an undefined variable, of course it name errors, as you would expect. And if you try to assign B to A with them undefined, of course it name errors, as you would expect. And what happens if you try to assign A to A with A undefined? Correct. Nil. WAT. Let's talk about Ruby. Ruby, unlike some other dynamic languages, does not have bare words, so you cannot just type words in and have strings come out, unless you define a particular method missing that does the right thing. And then if you type bare words, suddenly Ruby supports bare words. And in fact, it will even support bare words with bangs in them. And this is not deserving of WAT. This is actually a result of how awesome Ruby is. But if you ever actually do this, then WAT. Let's talk about JavaScript. Does anyone know in JavaScript what array plus array is? Well, let me ask you this first. What should array plus array be?
Empty array.
Empty array. I would also accept type error. That is not what array plus array is. Wrong. Wrong. Array plus array is empty string. Obviously, I think that's obvious to everyone. Now, what would array plus object be? This should obviously be type error because those are completely disparate types. Does anyone know what this is? No. Close. No. Far away. It's object. Right. Nicely done. Now, of course, because this is plus, so you can flip the operands and the same thing comes out. So if we do, what? No, that's just an object. If you do object plus array, you should get exactly the same thing, which, as you can see, you do. And finally, the only one of these that's actually true is, because you add arrays, you get empty string, that doesn't make sense. But an object plus an object is actually not a number, technically. So this one's actually right. And exactly, right? Like, what is even going on in this lab? I don't even understand what person with a brain in their head would think that any of this is a good idea. Okay. Enough making fun of languages that suck. Let's talk about JavaScript. If I say array.new 16, or just array 16, I get an array of 16 things, which it represents as 16 commas, which is obvious. And if I then join those with a string, then I get the string 16 times. This is actually the only line in this entire presentation that's reasonable. Now, if I take that string and then add a 1 to it, it interprets the 1 as, or casts the 1 to a string, and then we get wat1 a bunch of times. Fine. Does anyone know what will happen if I subtract 1 from the string? I'm assuming no one does. I'll give you a hint. Does this help? Does anyone know?
Also microphone. So this is why we have not chosen to use JavaScript there as a base for this, because we knew this already from web development, not a fan of this. Lua is so much more sensible, small, beautiful, doesn't have, and comments in the audience, yes, Dave writes, an empty string actually makes sense if you look on how JavaScript deals with strings. I would say yes, it always makes sense. Well, no, we should simply JavaScript is a clusterfuck, right? So the whole web and stuff, and like seriously need to navigate for So the whole web, no. And in my opinion, why is this so? Because everyone just thrown everything together, hope something sticks there, and unfortunately all this random garbage kept sticking there. And Lua is so much more not full with this historic garbage and just doing the small stuff. And there is a high performance Lua JIT implementation if you would want it to, right? And in my opinion, I would say that we should not, this is exactly the problem why all the IT stuff sucks so much, right? The Linux kernel, Xorg server, everything every few years change, remove, rewrite, scrap, rewrite it. And in my opinion, this is exactly the problem here. And then how we get into something like this, right? And this is why we have chosen Lua. And I would also yeah, it shouldn't be there. So if you write a string, then the operator plus should, like in Lua it is, by the way, dot dot, I think, for probably concatenation kind of stuff, which might be a nice way to differentiate this. But I would say that this plus operator, like C++ string, should only like string plus string and not like object plus object, like do some maybe string concatenation. It's hilarious, and this is why I did not want to have our code base full with this JavaScript what's, which is why we tried Lua and it worked amazingly. And yeah, I wish more people would not, or do more reasonable stuff and not like do this kind of what stuff that, in my opinion, exactly brought us where the web is today and operating systems are today, and why everything is full of peak bugs and security vulnerabilities and fun stuff like that. So basically, I would ask and call for everyone contributing to making the IT landscape more sane and not this insane, not this what stuff. And probably this also means, well, the Linux landscape, but this is time for another video, how fragmented and full of what's it is, from the Xorg server to the Linux kernel. But the stream is already too long anyway, so that is for another video. And to summarize, yeah, all this what's is why we have software like this. Let's see, it's good for prototyping if you're used to see. So JavaScript good for prototyping, yeah, well, sort of what, but maybe. But I would say Lua is also amazing for prototyping, especially if you have, like us, the scanner framework. Once you have it for scanner drivers or like our UI stuff. Of course, I love prototyping stuff in our framework there, runtime with UI stuff. That is certainly amazing because, in my opinion, Lua has most of the good properties like instant editing, interpretation, and dynamic typing and stuff without all the what's, which makes it much more amazing for me. Let's see, one more comment and then we call it a day. ToString, it's just the ToString function. After all, the future software going to a higher level conventional sense, but some are more like neurological process describe a problem. Yeah, also agree. I wonder actually why we are not more like describing software algorithms and stuff more like mathematically, like with all this explicit like for and function and like go to in the sense of call function and stuff, and like manual array memory fiddling there, and not like mathematic formula, like how you just write mathematic formulas like for all of those do this and that, and kind of pixel manipulation and operating system memory manipulation. Anyway, I hope you learned something and found this interesting. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon for all the next videos and live streams and fun stuff to come.